Hi, Sadia. I'm so excited to have you. If you don't know her already, she's the writer of Yasmin, A Thousand Questions, Brick Walls, and she's also the editor-in-chief of Blue Minaret. Is that, I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm happy always to talk about books and about writing.
Yes, it's so important to talk about how the process is, and especially the things that go behind the scenes of the behind the scenes, because it takes a lot for a person to even think up those ideas and uh, put them down on paper. It's even that is a huge process. So let's talk about something that intrigues me about you, because I know you're an activist, you're not just a writer. You believe, you have a passion for what you're doing. You believe you're creating a change. So why do you write?
Honestly, writing is part of my activism. A lot of people, when I shifted from my face-to-face work with groups and organizations into writing, so many people, including my own family, said, "Oh, did you change your career? This is what you're doing now, really?" And I think it was hard for a lot of people to understand that I did not change anything. It was just a different tool that I use now. I still do a lot of the other activism, which was face-to-face, the trainings, the talking to groups and people. But I realized while I was doing that, I started doing my interfaith and intercultural work right after 9/11. And that was very important to be face to face, to meeting people and answering questions. But I also realized during that time that uh, storytelling has an immense power that facts and information and statistics don't. So even though my activism is obviously based on facts and reality, um, I saw that when I was talking to people about, for example, how I grew up in Pakistan, or some antics that my kids did, or something that was relatable. Those stories had so much more power to bring people together and to make them understand me or make me understand them. And something clicked in my mind at that point several years ago, and I said, wait a minute, stories can be a very powerful way of bringing the same message across, but in a less preachy way, in a less, boring way, so to speak. And so I kind of just shifted my goal to storytelling as a way of making people who are very different understand each other, and showcasing my faith and my culture and my upbringing, bringing in a way that was positive for readers. So I don't think it's different. It's another way. It's another kind of activism.
Right. That's so interesting. So when you're writing your book, do you make sure that you include certain perspectives that you have via the characters that you're writing?
Well, so far I've only written about the things that are important to me in my activism. So I write South Asian characters, I write Muslim characters, the settings are like that, the issues are like that. I'll write about Islamophobia, or I'll write about 9/11, or write about things, even with the Yasmin series, which doesn't have any issues, it's still showcasing my culture and my faith and my religion in a background way. So yeah, so those are the kind of, that's the most important thing to me. And when I start writing something new, that's what I think of, how can I present these things in a way that are going to be fun and interesting for readers, but then also help them just understand a little bit more about what I want them to understand. And it's very hard to do that because, especially kid readers, they're going to just like stop reading the minute they figure out that someone's trying to teach them a lesson, or someone's trying to give them some information. So you have to do it in a way which is genuine and authentic as
Right.
well.
So supposing it's a issue about Islamophobia, say, so you are showing two people talking, or you're showing something like that. How would you say to introduce that subject? Like, would it be like a scene, or would it be via dialogue? Like, if someone's writing it down, how do you suggest someone do that?
Yeah, it's definitely both scene, dialogue, characters, the background. So a perfect example is my upcoming book, A Place at the Table. It's a middle grade novel that I've co-written with my friend Laura Shogun, who's also a middle grade author. And this book is basically about racism and Islamophobia. It's two characters. There's a Muslim character and a Jewish character, two girls who are becoming friends. The Muslim girl, they both have another girl in the class who's constantly being very, racist and Islamophobic. And so it's a whole story, but the one setting or scene that's really brings that home to the reader is that the two girls have gone to the mall for an outing, and they're trying on dresses that are more modest because they're Muslim and Jewish. They're both more modest in dress, and so they find this dress and they're trying it on, and then they decide to wear it, to just buy it and wear the clothes and so look like kind of, like sisters or twins. They think that's cool, and then they're walking around the mall, and the other girl, who's the mean girl, comes and she says something really negative about how, oh, you're becoming like this, or you're Arab now, or something like that. So it's a very ugly scene, and sometimes I feel that to bring across the ugliness of a concept, you have to show that, in the language and in the description. So that's part of a bigger story. And of course, the whole story, there's a cooking competition, and there's lots of food, and there's lots of fun. But that one scene stands out as being, bringing home what people go through even in the midst of all the fun or normal lives that they're having. Yeah, so, if you're writing something like that, just imagine yourself, when that would happen to you. That's why I think that's very important to write authentically. If you've never had something like that happen, trying to come up with something like that is going to be harder.
Right.
I can literally, take a real scene in my life and put that in a book because I've gone through stuff like that, or something that you've gone through, right, or have seen somebody else gone through. It's easier to fictionalize it.
Right. So another question I have is, when you write about your culture, now not everything about our own culture is positive. There are certain aspects that are negative, like, sometimes we enjoy bargaining way too much, like one of those things. So do you feel comfortable introducing that? Do you worry about the reader taking offense to it, that their culture being portrayed in a negative way? Or do you just express yourself and let that worry not be a concern?
No, I'm always including negative things. In fact, sometimes I will have reviewers be upset with me because, why did you show this negative thing? And especially my adult work. So I started out by writing adult fiction, and my short story collection, Brick Walls, is about there's 7 stories set in Pakistan. And they're all kind of, showcasing a negative aspect of Pakistan, but in a way that's, that's understandable. And the characters are good, but they're just stuck in this situation. And when a lot of Muslim, especially reviewers, reviewed that book several years ago, they were kind of angry with me. They said, you've just shown, why did you have to write about the terrorist? We already have this. So why did you have to write about this woman doing really bad things? And I just, you just have to. So that's the reality. And if you don't like it, you can pick up another book to read. You don't have to read my book. For younger audiences, you have to be more careful that you make it presented in such a way. My rule always is that I don't only show the negative side. So if I have a character that's really a negative character showing a negative aspect of my faith or my culture, then in the same book, I will always also have another character who's portraying the positive side of it. So that, like if, for example, if you have to show a terrorist who's Muslim, then also in the book include a good Muslim, so that you can kind of let the reader decide that they're coming from the same environment, but this one is acting this way and this one is acting this way, and maybe it's actually human nature and not, so you just have to be careful in how you present information.
Right. So then, is it hard to find support? Like, did you have support for your writing right in the beginning off the bat, or was it hard to garner the attention that you needed towards your writing?
As far as readers and reviewers are concerned, I think that I started out with a small audience because my first book was not with a major publisher. It was with a very small indie press, and that actually I believe is not even like it's closed down. So because of that, I was limited in how many people were reading my book. I got really good response even then because I was doing a lot of my own marketing. I was able to get, write-ups in like my own paper, Houston Chronicle, which is a huge paper, had like a half-page write-up about me for that book. So I was very lucky. It had been pretty much overall. I knew that if it was very conservative kind of people reviewing, they might have problems, but it wasn't that bad. But when you have a small readership, then the criticism is also small, and when you have a big readership, then the criticism can also be big.
Right.
And you also always second guess yourself. Oh my God, I got bad reviews on Amazon. That means I must be a terrible writer, or my stories are really bad. So me and every writer I know, we just have these rules: don't read the reviews. Just there's no point if it's something that's going to, if it's a genuine kind of review, then you can learn from it. But I feel like even then, once the book is out, it's out. What are you gonna do? You
Right.
can't recall it and rewrite it. So
Right. Makes sense. I myself have found that if the review is 1 or 2 stars, it makes no sense. You don't have to. You shouldn't worry about it. It's the 3 and 4 that are more scary, because there is always that one piece of uh, comment that really hits home. That, oh, it could have, the book could have been changed in a certain way, and you're like, hey, but then that's just knowledge to be applied to the next book.
it is. It's also a lot of times you can't really do it, apply the knowledge to the next book, because it's personal opinions of people.
Right.
For example, with the Yasmin books, if once I made the mistake of actually going and reading some reviews, and most of them have been really positive, but there have been some, oh, this is so unrealistic. This would never happen. What was the writer thinking? And I know for a fact that a lot of the Yasmin books are actually based on things that have happened to my own kids, especially my daughter, who the book is based on, or who the character is based on. And I was like, I don't care how unrealistic it is. It happened to my daughter. So, what are you gonna do? I can actually stand and fight with that reviewer saying, no, that thing did happen. What I do now is, what I learned from that is that when I talk about that specific story, I will say, you know what, this is weird. It had really happened to my daughter. So that maybe if people are thinking that, they're going to be like, oh, okay, that may be weird or unusual, but it can happen. But I can't help it. I can't help it. And I think that as a writer, you really have to develop thick skin. You're going to never have 100% positive reaction to, no matter how good your book is. There's going to be people who will think it's not that great. So just don't, I don't even read them. It's not helpful to me. It's not helpful for my mental health, I guess.
So how do you keep positive? Like, I know sometimes the process itself is very exhausting, and especially as mothers sometimes, and I'm sure even kids who grow to become writers, even if they're young, they will have a lot of responsibilities along with writing, because no one just takes off being a successful writer. It's a process. So how do you keep yourself positive, like in the beginning and now, like over the course of time?
Well, as a writer, I do look at my reviews from people who know what they're talking about. So, even though I won't read reviews that are on Amazon, for example, by readers, not because they don't know what they're talking about, but because I know there are going to be so many different experiences. But I do read trade reviews. Trade reviews are really important to me because they are written by, industry professionals who, so for example, if a librarian who reviews, tons of books each year is reviewing my book, that's an opinion that I will value. And if they have something to say that is negative, I will take that to heart. But I still think that I don't really let it, I mean, sometimes I do. I'm angry for a few days and then I move on. For example, for one of my middle grade novels, the review was so good by one of the trade reviewers, and at the end it said, sometimes it got too preachy. And I'm like, man, I did not get too preachy. But then that's a personal, just like if I'm a painter and somebody says they don't like the colors I painted, what are you gonna do?
Right.
But I stay positive because I get responses from kids. I think that readers who read my books, I get messages every day online. I get letters. I get so much fan mail. You can't even believe it. by kids, kindergartners, first graders, second graders, who telling me how much my books, they enjoyed them and they learned from them, and they not, Yasmin is just like me, and that's what I really value. That's why what keeps me going. As long as there's a need for that kind of book, I'm going to write it.
Right. That's wonderful. It is important to remember why you're doing what you're doing rather than, get involved. Yes, and very much important to take those few days away to get angry, be upset, and then bounce back. Because I think there's a lot of pressure to stay positive all the time these days, which is not possible. We need to understand that our bodies and our minds need to process whatever we're feeling, and then you just, move ahead and keep going on. So that's been all the tips that we could think about for the mindset part. And now we get to the good stuff where kids ask us some questions. And
Ooh.
I know this is your fun part, you love doing this. So one of the kids have asked, what do you think about when when creating your characters?
What do I think about? I think for me, having a real person in mind that I can think of is really important. Even though all my stories are fiction, I still have somebody in my mind when I'm creating characters, and that helps me make them more realistic. Yasmin is based on my daughter. She's older now, but when she was at that age. So whenever I'm writing the various stories, there's so many Yasmin stories, I have to make sure that they are authentic to this character. I can't have her do anything. So thinking of my daughter, and for example, I was coming up with this story for next year in which she's going to do a science experiment, and we were thinking of different experiments she could do, and I thought of slime, because so many kids like slime, but I thought of my daughter, and I actually asked her, I was like, you think she should work with slime? And she just looked at me. She said, ew, that's so messy. I would never do that. And I was like, yeah, that's true. Because even though all other kids might like slime, this character would think that's way too messy. But that's her personality. So thinking of characters as real people who would act in a certain way or behave in a certain way, that's really helpful to me.
Right. So do you, excuse me, do you write all their characteristics down before starting a story?
Not with Yasmin, because she's kind of like part of my family now, so I don't have to. But yeah, when I write a book, of the ones that I've been working on now for the middle grade novels, I have before I start the story, and while I start, that keep getting it's flexible, but I have a little paragraph for each character that includes not only physical characteristics, because sometimes authors forget the color of their character's eyes, and then halfway through the book, somebody who had blue eyes now has brown eyes, so you don't want to make that mistake. But also what their fears and their hopes are, what they want in life, what are their challenges. I always write that down, so that also every time I can keep making sure that that's obvious in the character, and every step, every dialogue, and every action they make should be based on that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great advice. I think it's important to remember those things. Another question that we have had is, how many unpublished books do you have?
Oh my gosh! When I was going through my list the other day, complete books that are done, I would say not that many, maybe 2. But I have a lot of unfinished novels, a lot. I mean, I would say maybe like 20 or so. And the reason is, I think that's why I think a lot of people who want to be writers end up not being published authors, because it's really hard to finish. You get started, you have a great idea, you have great characters, but the actual sitting down for months and months, sometimes years, to finish a novel, that's the hard part, and it takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of support from your external sources. So I have a lot of that. I mean, and actually one book that I completed had been half written a long time ago, and I took it out and I reread it and I rewrote it. So yeah. I'm not proud of that, but I feel like actually I am proud of that, because in a way, because those are the marks of a writer. You know, every writer I know has like unfinished, unpublished novels sitting in their hard drive.
Yes. Oh, tell me about it.
Yeah.
So, one thing I think I need to talk about here is I realized this when I was writing my first book, which is a nonfiction book, is when you're getting towards the end of writing a book, you kind of slow way down because you're very scared of the book getting published. It do you that is something I felt, and I spoke to a few other writers and they were experiencing the same thing, because in the end you're like, if I finish this has to go to the editor and it has to go to the publisher and it has to go into print, and you're scared about what the readers are going to say. So did you ever experience that?
I should say yes, right?
No,
Since
you
you're
don't have
asking me.
to.
Um,
It could be you have the
no, I'm
confidence.
the opposite. I'm kind of, for me, the hardest is getting started. And
Oh,
then
okay.
once I'm in my groove, I'm happy because by the time you're done, you've spent so much time. I feel like I'm ready to get it over with. And
Right.
I've been lucky, you know, once you get published once or twice, then I feel it becomes easier because then you've already seen it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing.
Right.
With a lot of my books, they're under contract already. So the last several books I've written have been books that um, the editors already had, you know, kind of contracted for, so they were waiting for them. For me, it's a relief. For me, it's a relief. I'm done. By the time I'm done, I'm usually bored of it already, and I've already got an idea for something else. I want to get on to the next one.
Well, that's
Um,
interesting. That's important to have someone else's perspective also. I mean,
yeah,
of course, I spoke to a few people who coincidentally were feeling the same way I was. But this is important too, because I think, yes, I do remember that when I was doing my edit, like my personal edit before sending it across, I was like, oh my God, I cannot read this one more time. I'm done. I'm like, that was when I was like done. Just send it, good, bad, ugly, just send it across and just
absolutely.
be done with it.
Yeah, and for me, the hardest thing actually is having to reread it when, you know, when it gets to the copy editing stage and then they want you to read every word. And I'm like, really? I wrote this. I don't want to read it again ever. So, which happens when people want to talk about your book once it's published and you don't remember because you don't want to read it again.
Right.
Um, but for I think it really depends on your personality. I'm the
Of
kind of
course.
person who really, um, I would rather get done with things and have them out so that I can move on to the next thing. I don't really care a lot as much. Once something is out there, it's done. It's you know, that's it. A lot of people are more sensitive. They really care about how things are received, and so they're stressing about that. For
Mhm.
me, the writing process is the thing that gets me very excited, and so I just want to keep doing that. So, you know I have to finish this and I can move on to the next thing. I usually have several projects, you know, continuously. Like this first half of this year, I have had about 6 books I've been working on together. So, you know, I keep hopping from one to the other, and when I'm done with one, it's a big celebration because that's one less on my plate. So I
Okay.
like that. I like that kind of working feverishly.
So here you go. Everyone has their own process and everyone experiences the writing and the creation differently. And I think that is so important to remember, because just like we all talk about, our cultures and our difference of opinions and how we all, behave differently and choose differently, it is important to remember that what works for you as a writer too, or author too, might not work for someone else. And you just need to keep trying things out and figuring out what works best for you as a person.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So thank you so much, Sadia. This was so interesting and I loved our conversation. I can't wait to already have you again on our show, and it would be so wonderful to keep having these conversations about the mindset and the creative process, and share our experiences with others so they can also learn from, grow from their journey.
Yeah, it's especially as a writer, you kind of like tend to live in your own little room hidden from other people. So I love talking with you and other people who kind of share the same interests, and we can, you know, learn from each other and bounce off ideas. So thank you for inviting me. I love the conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Take care.